Hi friends, I'm Claire and this is my dog Thoof here, and today we're gonna make him a Halloween costume, so please stick around. Hi friends, my name is Claire and this is my channel, Woodshed Theory. Here, I make content about what it is like to live as an adult on the autism spectrum and whatever else feels good to me. So if that sounds good to you, or if you're feeling particularly gracious today, and I hope that you are, please go ahead and click the subscribe button, ring the bell. I almost forgot to mention that I put out videos 3 times a week. Click the like, click the like. Hi everybody. So today's very special. I'd like you to meet my pooch, our pooch, named Thoofier. He is an Aussie Doodle and I love making him Halloween costumes. Last year I made him a Yoda costume and I'll insert that picture here because it was amazing. And this year we're going to make him into a animated amphibian video game character. So I'd love to bring you along on that journey. And little secret, we've already made that and filmed that whole journey. So I'll be back after we go through that and we'll try on the costume and see how it goes, okay? Thank you, Sophia. So we have everything that we need for the project. For the hat portion, I have the yarn, white for the body, or the top of the mushroom, red for the dots, and then I don't have the tan color I'd like for the neck of the mushroom. I'm gonna use this ecru color instead. And then for some stability in the mushroom hat, I got these reef forms. It was 2 for $1 at the dollar store. So that will be the hat. I'll stuff it with some polyfill. Also, if you don't want to buy a bag of polyfill, you can get a pillow at Walmart with the same stuff in it for $2.99, a lot cheaper. Then for the vest, I got some gold trim at the fabric store it was on clearance for 50 cents a yard. So I got 2 yards of the gold trim. And then at Savers at the thrift store, I thought I was getting a big piece of blue fabric to use for the vest. And it's cut up into scrap pieces. So I'll just use what I can to make the vest. It's the right color, so we're gonna make it work. Starting off with a 5.5 millimeter crochet hook, I'm going to take the white yarn, it is a worsted weight yarn, and start with a magic circle. Full disclosure, this is not a step-by-step tutorial. If you have some crochet skills, I'll talk you through the entire thing, but I won't give you every single detail or show you every single detail. If you have any crochet experience, you'll probably be able to follow along just fine. I'm starting off with a very typical crochet circle. So it started with a magic circle, I chained 1, and then did 8 double crochet into the magic circle. To close each round, I will slip stitch into the first stitch and then chain 1 for the next round. For rows 2 and 3, I'm doing 2 double crochet into each stitch until I finish the round. Then for all of the remaining rows to grow the circle, I did a pattern of 2 double crochets into 1 stitch, then a single crochet into the next, 2 double crochets into 1 stitch, then a single crochet in the next. And then for the next row, did the increase as 2 double crochets, then 2 single crochets, 2 double crochets, then 2 single crochets. Then the next row would be 2 double crochets into 1 stitch, then 3 single crochets into the next 3, then 2 double crochets, then 3 single crochets, and so on and so forth. So then you do the 4 single crochets, 5 single crochets, and I think I got up to 6 single crochets until it was the size circle that I needed. I made the circle big enough to cover the entire mini metal wreath form. And after I got to this point, I was ready to build up the sides of the hat. To build up the sides of the mushroom hat, I placed the form inside of the hat, and then I just started doing rows with no increases. And I ended up doing 6 rows with no increases. And as a reminder, to end every round, I'm slip stitching into the first stitch of the row and then chaining 1. Then I started to add the polyfill inside of the mushroom cap. I added as much as would fit at the moment and then continued to add more as I closed up the top of the mushroom. To complete the hat, I started my decrease rows, which is basically how I did the increase rows, just backwards. So I crocheted 2 together, then did 6 single crochets, crocheted 2 together, then did 6 single crochets, and so on and so forth. Then on the next row, I did 2 single crochets together, 5 single crochets. Then the next row was 2 single crochets together, 4 single crochets, so on and so forth until the final 2 rounds where I did 2 crochets together all the way around the round for the final 2 rounds. And that should basically close up the entire hat. Now, as I was closing up the hat, I continued to add more stuffing. I just stuffed and stuffed until I couldn't fit any more stuffing in the hat. And then eventually I added the wreath form, the other wreath form, into the bottom of the hat. And this gives us a perfect toadstool shape. So I just kept going round and around and decreasing as I went. It is a little tricky to do this part just because you're basically sewing closed a pillow, but I just went slowly and did the best that I could and then added more stuffing as I went so that the pillow or the hat was totally stuffed by the time I finished. I have to say I was so happy with the way that the shape came out. I couldn't have done it any better. I just love it so much. To make the stalk of the mushroom hat, the part of the hat that holds it onto the dog's head, I am going around and doing a single crochet into one of the rounds of the bottom of the hat in an ecru color. I would have preferred tan, but I was out of tan and I'm not buying any more yarn right now. So I just went around in the U shape until I finished that. I will say I wish in retrospect that I had done a full circle all the way around, because I did go back and pretty much completed a full circle after this part was done, after I realized it would fit better on my dog's head that way. After finishing that U shape, I chained 1 and started doing rows of double crochet back and forth. Kind of makes a connected piece of fabric all the way down the back of the dog's neck. And this part is super easy, so I don't think it needs much explanation. My favorite part is that when you do the chain right into the project, then you don't need to go back and sew pieces together. After finishing those 6 rows, I'm ready to do the chin strap for the hat. To accomplish this, I took my working yarn, I didn't cut anything, and I chained about 4 inches and then used a slip stitch to connect one side of the hat to the other. Then I chained 1 and did a full round of double crochets. Then I followed that with 5 rounds of front and back post double crochets to make a ribbing effect so that the chin strap would be stretchy. At this point, I tried it on my dog, and the hat was a little bit floppy, so I decided to add a row of double crochets to the front of the mushroom hat to give it more stability. So I basically did what I had shown before, where I put a row of the foundation single crochets all around the front of that row, and then I did a row of double crochet, and then I did some fancier edging, which was double crochet, half double crochet, single crochet all the way across, and then finished it up in the opposite direction. You don't need to do this, to be honest, but I was just trying to give the hat a little bit more of a professional finish. But, you know, it's a dog costume, so. To finish it off, I did a single crochet row all around the opening. I decided to try eyes and decided against it. And then I threaded some elastic all the way around the opening just to give it some more stability, and tied it in a simple knot at the bottom, not too tight for a dog, but just enough so that it held the cap onto my dog's head better. At this point, I tried the cap onto my dog, and it fit great, but the top of the mushroom was falling into his eyes. So I decided to single crochet the mushroom cap back onto the hood a bit, just so that it wouldn't be falling into his eyes. So I just took the ecru color and did a row of single crochet and kind of just took out some of that fabric there. I hope I'm explaining this enough, but basically I pulled the mushroom cap portion back a little bit so it wasn't as floppy on the top of his head, and I'm just doing this by using a row of single crochet to attach the mushroom cap further back onto the hood part of the hat. Then all that's left to do is to weave in all of the loose ends. And now for the spots. I made 5 crochet circle red spots for my mushroom cap, and I promise that I thought I recorded me doing that. It's exactly the same as the circle that we started with, except you only do 4 rows. So I apologize for that. I really thought that I filmed it. So I just went around and pinned on all of the spots. I tried to get everything pretty symmetrical. From the pictures I was looking at, there was 1 spot on the top and then 4 spots on the sides of the hat. After getting everything pinned, I whip stitched each of the spots on with the long tail that I left from the circles. And there you have it, my friend. We have completed our toadstool snood for our dog costume. I'm really happy with the way that it came out. I couldn't have done it any better. So yeah, fits the dog, looks great. Finally, we are at the vest portion of the costume. I decided to just do I guess you could call it a collar that goes over Thufir, and he was very helpful and let me figure out measurements on him. I wanted to make this as easy as possible. I didn't really measure. What I did was I took some tailor's chalk, I laid the fabric over him, and I used that to figure out how big of a vest I would need for him. After measuring, I cut out 2 pieces of fabric in the same size, basically in a bib shape, so that I could lay it around his shoulders. Thufir was a great sport, and he let me keep trying this on him to make sure I was going in the right direction. Then I pinned the two pieces of fabric together all the way around the edge to make sure that they wouldn't slip while I was sewing them together on the machine. Before heading to the sewing machine, I took my tailor's chalk and just gave myself a guide around the neckline as to where I wanted to place the stitches. I was a little bit worried I wasn't going to do them even. Onto the sewing machine. I did a 1/2 inch seam allowance and sewed all the way around the best part of the project, and I left an opening at the end of one of, I guess you could call it the straps, so that I could flip it all inside out. This gave me a really nice finish on the vest part of the project. Also, the fabric was a lot thinner than I thought it would be, so I decided it would be a good idea to double it up. Now that we're done at the sewing machine, I take all the pins out of the project. I then trimmed as close as I could to getting off all of the seam allowance with a pair of pinking shears because the fabric, man, I got it from a thrift store. It was fraying, guys. It was a mess, but we made it work in the end. After I finished cutting off all of that seam allowance with the pinking shears, I went ahead and flipped everything inside out and ironed it, and I think it came out pretty nice considering. Thufir, Timmy, come here.
Good boy. Let's try it on, shall we?
The character that I'm making wears a vest that's open at the front. So for the front of the collar, I took some old tan fleece fabric that I had. I cut the fabric into a C shape, and I cut it wide enough to cover the ends of what I would call the vest part. I tucked the end of the unfinished, unsewed part of the vest inside so that when I sewed it, it would look finished. And then I tucked the C part, the fleece part, into that opening and pinned it so that I could sew it all together and sew it shut. After sewing that first side shut, I went ahead and measured the collar on the dog and saw that I actually could get rid of a lot of the fabric that I had put on there originally. So I pinned it to size and then trimmed it and then sewed the other side shut as well. And I didn't do anything special on the other side. You won't be able to see it anyway. It's going to get covered up by trim in a second. For the final step, we're almost done. I just pinned this trim that I found at the clearance section all the way around the vest portion of the collar, and I sewed it on with a zigzag stitch on the sewing machine. I have to say I had so much fun making this costume for Thufir, and he looks so handsome in it. And the next shot is going to be Thufir all decked out in his beautiful, sweet little costume. Wow, you're the most handsome in the world! Thufi! What does everybody think? It's so good. Alright everyone, thank you so much for coming along with me and helping me make Thufir's costume this year. We love you so much and we hope you have a happy Halloween, and we'll see you next time. Bye! Oh, thank you, thank you, thank you. Yeah.